Well, we learned that you were able to accomplish many things while living in Rochester, and you became an agent of change. So, Sarai asks, how were you an agent of change in Rochester?
Well, whenever I finished my PhD, I had met some scientists, especially Dr. William Jacob Knox,
Hmm.
who was a African American scientist at Eastman Kodak. And Eastman Kodak had a rich history in terms of employing uh, African Americans and women. For example, the first woman PhD who worked in the Kodak Research Laboratories was hired in 1928.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was originally from Germany. The first African American was Dr. James Laval, who came to Kodak, who was hired by Kodak in 1943.
Mm.
What was significant about James Laval was the fact that he had been a silver medalist in the Berlin Olympics of 1936 in the 400 meters.
Oh, track
The,
and field like you.
yeah, so that was the significant aspect of it. And the 1936 Olympics was really highlighted by Jesse Owens.
Uh-huh.
Jesse Owens had been the star of those
Yes.
Olympics. Well, Laval joined the company in 1943, and Dr. Knox, who was a close personal friend of mine, joined in 1945. I joined the company
Oh,
in 1956. However, in 1954, my wife, who had a master's in chemistry, analytical
oh,
chemistry,
good for her.
joined the research lab in 1954, and she ran newly installed mass spectrometer in the research lab
Hmm.
in 1954. I think my late wife, Helen, was the first African American woman in the Kodak research labs.
My goodness.
Yes,
You both have accomplished quite a bit.
yes. Unfortunately, she passed 7 years ago.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry to hear
yeah.
that. But obviously, how long were you married?
Almost 52 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
right,
Oh, that's great. And we're going to actually ask you a little more about your personal life in a little
right.
bit if you're open to that.
Well, in terms of the community, uh, I was befriended by some black families,
Hmm.
and I got to know quite a bit about the community.
Yes.
And in, nine, in 1959, a colleague at Kodak, his wife was president of the local NAACP,
Mm.
uh, Carl Zulke. He was one of the managers in the chemistry division
Mm.
where my wife worked. And so his wife was president of the NAACP and requested that I join and chair their education committee. So I became head of the NAACP's education committee.
Wow.
And in 1960, there was a school administration's decision to put on half-day sessions, 900 students from schools number 3, 4, and 19.
Oh,
So I went before the Board of Education and read a statement of deep concern. It was imperative that these youngsters have a full-day educational experience. So on August 20th of 1960, the board rescinded the administration's decision, and then therefore there was a full-day educational experience for the children, 900 of them.
wow. So you directly impacted 900
Right,
children's educational
right,
careers by advocating
right,
for full day.
right.
And it worked.
And it worked.
That's wonderful.
So I chaired the Ralph Bunch Scholarship Committee of the NAACP from approximately 1962 until 1980.
Wow.
Uh, what we, the primary objective of the scholarship fund was to provide anywhere from generally about 6 to 8 scholarships to minority students
Mm.
in the district on an annual basis, a stipend which enabled them to go to college.
That's fantastic. And
Yes.
that, I imagine, must mean a lot to you since you also received a scholarship to attend college and you
Oh
know the
yes,
importance of working hard for
right,
those
right.
accolades. That's wonderful. As a matter of fact, Jade had a quick question for you. He wanted you to talk a little bit about who your boss was at Kodak. You mentioned two gentlemen, so I wanted to be clear. Who was your boss
My
at
boss
Kodak?
initially was a person by the name of Waldemar Vanslo.
Okay.
And my first job was within a group called Photographic Theory.
You were pretty involved at Kodak then.
Yeah, well, yes, from fundamental.
Yes.
I was not involved in product, but more so in the fundamental aspects of the photographic process.
Neil has a question for you. He
Sure.
wants to know, are you still an agent of change here in Rochester?
I don't call it an agent of change. I call it a being sensitive to the human need.
Marilyn would like to know, why was school number 10 named after you?
Since I've been around as long as dirt, and I've been active on educational issues. I served 9 years on the board, 10 years on the Board of Regents, and was very active chairing the Elementary, Secondary, and Continuing Education Committee of the Board of Regents. And even as a emeritus regent, I still serve on two regents' committees. And not a voting member, but I serve on two of their committees. And so I guess knowing of my interests and the fact that I've been actively involved with educational issues in the community of Rochester and Monroe County for many, many years, so out of the wisdom of the board, school board, they decided that maybe they should name a school after me, much to my surprise. Because when the announcement was made to me, I said, well, generally that's an honor for people when they're dead. I said, I told him, I said, well, maybe you know something that I don't know about my physical condition, so it would be in my best interest to actually see my primary care physician to make certain that everything
Make
is
sure
all
you're
right.
okay.
Right.